everybody, and welcome to another episode of Horror Movie Night, the podcast where my co-host Brian messaged me and said, I feel bad that you waited for me to do Monster in the Closet, and I'm pretty sure it's almost done, and I probably paid attention to roughly 10 minutes of it. And then a few minutes later, he said, well, apparently I'm not almost done. The army can't stop him. So, yeah, we watched Monster in the Closet, a movie that has not one, but two before they were famous child actors in this movie. And I will mention them when we get there. But this was my pick. As I was telling Scott before we hit record, I have mixed feelings on this pick. I feel like my notes are very heavy in the first, 10 to 15 minutes, and then they slowly are kind of like, oh, this movie's still on.
And when Matt said that to me, my response was, oh, you're still here.
Yeah. The movie opens. I tried to find the actual monologue. No one has it posted anywhere, and I wasn't going to rewatch it and write it verbatim.
Oh, no, you weren't? That's not your...
The opening monologue to this movie is so funny and so stupid, because it's basically just like, sometimes there are questions that have no answers. Though you want to know the answers, the questions do not have answers. It is the unknown. And sometimes in these unknown unknowings, it's interesting to not ask the questions, for the answers are unknown. It's just like this rambling nonsense. And I feel very strongly that most of the voiceover was, because I don't think Troma produced this. I think this was another one of the infamous, Troma bought this movie, and I feel like the voiceover was like after the fact. They were like, yo, we're putting this voiceover in here because this movie doesn't make any sense.
I think the movie's fun because it's absurd, so it doesn't need to have that exposition, in my opinion.
I'm pretty sure Troma's produced 10 movies.
If Lloyd Kaufman directed it, then Troma produced it. The rest is literally just like them buying up whatever film no one else wanted.
Yeah, I don't think they did much. They did, obviously, The Toxic Avengers and Nukem High, Sergeant Kabuki Man. They might have done Poultry
Surf Nazis?
They did Poultrygeist. Surf Nazis was definitely a purchase.
Okay.
They did, Romeo and Juliet. But, that's the thing. Lloyd will go through these phases where he'll either direct, 5 movies in 5 years, or he'll direct nothing for, 10 years.
They're, confusing because I guess they purchase movies, or they have intent of releasing movies that they don't want to produce. Because there's a few that Lloyd Kaufman plays a cameo in, but if you watch the documentary, it seems like he has nothing to do with the movie.
Well,
we'll slap the name on it, but we're not paying for it to be made. You do your thing, and I'll be the janitor.
The first time I ever met Lloyd Kaufman was at a book signing in Exton, Pennsylvania. It was my friend Graham and I were in the middle of a Troma binge. And we had just read that Lloyd was going to be 20 minutes from us for a book signing. And we're like, well, shit, we got to go. So we hopped in the car. We drove there. And it was Lloyd Kaufman, the two of us, and then 5 other guys. Except the 5 other guys were the guys that flew Lloyd to Exton, PA, because they were shooting a horror movie. And he agreed to do the cameo for free, so long as they found him a place to stay and could book him a book signing somewhere nearby. He'll do weird shit like that where it's he wants everyone who's making a movie to make a movie. And he's like, hey, if I can make it work, I'll do it for free. So it was he slept on their couch for a weekend, shot a cameo in their movie, and the local Barnes & Noble was like, yeah, sure, we'll have Lloyd do a book signing here. And he stood there and signed a couple books. And to him, it was a great day.
But did he get a free burrito?
That's the tough decision maker. But I think what happens is he'll agree to do these little cameos. And then because he's familiar with that filmmaker, they'll be like, hey, we're having trouble selling this movie. And he'll be like, well, Troma will put it out for you. I think that there's stacking benefits. Very similar to the last movie that we reviewed that had the Troma logo in the front. The first 10 minutes of this movie, much like Night Beast, is just a lot of people dying. Just characters being introduced so they can die.
Well, but the funniest part about it is that it says these really, really specific time frames. I love it.
I don't know why it bothers me that they're all spelled out, but it does.
I think that gag got old after a while, very quickly.
Nope.
Oh, did it? Did the clothes flying out of the closet get old quickly for you too?
I enjoyed the clothes flying out of the closet, especially when he's killing a little girl that has a weird milk mustache thing going on.
Oh, it's so weird.
And you know who that was?
A very competent actress, apparently.
That was Fergie.
What? Well, so now we know why Matt picked this movie.
Yeah, that was Fergie's first acting role before she went to the Mickey Mouse Club.
Wait, she was in the Mickey Mouse Club?
Yeah, she's part of that elite group of celebrities that started in the Mickey Mouse Club, along with, like, I think Jennifer Love Hewitt, but definitely Britney Spears and 2 members of NSYNC.
So fucking weird.
Yeah, they got their paws in everybody.
If Troma ever decided to try to make a full feature movie, they should do a biopic on the manager of NSYNC and all those boy bands of the 90s, just because
Lou Pearlman.
It just reminded me when you said Britney Spears, because she almost got signed by him. But you know the guy who gets eaten by a escalator in Terra Firma?
Yeah.
I would just love to see him portray him.
So I've got some bad news for you.
He's dead.
Yeah, Joe Flyshaker is dead. It was a very sad day in the world of Troma. It was not shocking, though. The man was about 700 pounds.
The massive dude? Yeah. Yeah. I knew him as the guy who shit out an egg in Poltergeist, right?
And he had probably my favorite role in Romeo and Juliet as the phone sex operator. I'm sure you guys caught the other soon-to-be famous child actor that was in this movie.
I did not.
The main little kid that's a science genius is Paul Walker.
What? Professor?
Yeah, Professor is played by Paul Walker. Second young, pre-famous Paul Walker appearance on Horror Movie Night.
Not nearly as good as the first one, though.
No, Tammy the T-Rex is a masterpiece. This is a strange choice.
Not a terrible monster. I will say that.
And I wrote that down. Like, I picked this for the monster. Like, the monster looks kind of awesome.
Well, when the monster has a little bit of an alien vibe and then the mouth comes out, it's a pretty cool monster. Before that, it's just a villain on Power Rangers.
Also the reason why Matt picked it.
Yeah. So there's this, I believe this is rated PG, which is kind of weird, but also totally makes sense because there's always like the threat of nudity and there's always like the threat of blood, but like you don't see any of it. But there's this weird shower gag.
Shower.
Where the wife is in the shower and it like plays the Psycho card like 4 times in a row where it's always her husband just checking in on her. But leading up to that, she's just standing in the shower, sensually rubbing her wet shoulder for like 3 minutes.
I have a note about that. Ever notice how people shower in movies and how unrealistic it is? This woman is massaging her right shoulder with a look of pure bliss on her face. I may spend 10 minutes under the scalding hot water during my showers, but I've got a scowl on my face as I go over all of my personal failings and all the things I've never accomplished in life.
That shower gag is like... And that's the moment when I realized, like, the comedy of this movie, including, like, the location subtitles and everything, is, like, to repeat a joke one time too many.
Too many. It's the Family Guy style.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The thing is, like, the Family Guy style, while it doesn't work on me, I get the concept. That, like, the joke continues, and then it stops being funny, but then it also keeps continuing to the point that it's almost funny how absurd the joke has continued. Mm-hmm. But they don't continue it. Like it's like they hit the amount of beats where it would be successfully funny and then they always go just one beat too many and then don't even bother to like double down on like keeping it going so that it might eventually become funny again. Like they just
it's
like,
Mad TV.
Yes.
It's Mad TV.
That's the perfect analogy. One of the parts that made me laugh out loud is right after the shower gag, where the husband is standing directly in front of the closet, and it's this shit-ass special effect where he gets pulled into the closet, and if it was animation and not a human actor, it would have been someone just grabbing the cell and pulling it off of the camera. Like, it's so wacky how it looks.
Well, we got to talk about a couple other things, like people dying. First of all, you picked a movie that there's a dead dog in the first 5 minutes, and I was a little upset about. But then, I mean, the movie nothing matters, so it's fine.
One of my notes was, shit, forgot the dead dog.
Well, but that dog's name was Garbanzo, which is a sweet dog name. Like, I've never considered that dog name, but Garbanzo might go in the pile for like future dog names.
Maybe the dog dying was for the best. I'm just gonna say it. Like,
Why?
or it could have got away. Why? I don't know, because when his owner was looking for him, he was whipping a stick around aggressively.
Yeah, that guy deserved dismemberment more than pretty much anybody in any movie we've watched in months.
Basically, I've got 2 notes left, but I feel like they summarize why the notes kind of peter out around this point. Is the one note says the scientist and the monster slowly walking toward each other while he plays a xylophone.
Oh my god, the
Is
xylophone.
so long and so over the top.
Well, but that's Henry Wilson, right?
Yeah, like it's so funny. But then it's like, oh my god, this scene is taking forever.
Just be done.
Yeah, like, just be over with. And then the other note says, the last 20 minutes of this movie is just the monster carrying a dude until he dies of exhaustion.
Yeah, what an awful. And that's the issue with me and not talking enough in this movie, was because that was the whole movie. So I'd be like, shit, I'm not paying attention. So then I'll start to pay attention. But then every scene just went on way too long that it's like, I get the gist. I'll pay attention once this scene's over. Like, I don't know when they created this little electric fucking thing. It was just there.
The ultrasonic energy augmenter?
Yeah. I don't know when that became a thing. It was there one day.
Actually, the screenshot that I grabbed, I was at my computer watching this and I saw the scene happen and I rewound 10 seconds because I knew I needed to get this as one of our social media photos. But it's when the creature or the monster is walking back and forth behind Professor as he's building the augmenter at the school, I think it was, is pure comedy gold.
It's not the worst movie we've ever watched. It's certainly not the best movie we've ever watched. And I don't know why I remembered it. Like obviously, shocker to no one, I own it. But me buying this was literally, as far as I can remember, was Troma having a sale. And I was like going through the movies on their site, and the DVD was like $5. And I was like, all right, well, that's a pretty nice cover. Like, I'll give $5 to this, sure. And then like I watched it once and like promptly forgot about it, but I never forgot about how cool the monster looks. I was like, I'm pretty sure that monster was badass in that movie. So let me pick that for shits and giggles. And then like, you know, I did a little bit of research and was like, young Fergie and young Paul Walker. I'd be stupid not to pick this.
Well, the funny thing is that it was on my long list for at least a year or two before I saw it on your list. And I was like, oh man, I'll take care of this, because I'd never seen it. But I was like, this sounds like it could be fun and stupid. And
we were going to watch it one way or another. I don't have to carry the burden of this.
No. And listen, that Troma intro gets me so hyped every time. I don't know why. It's like this weird nostalgia trip for someone who never grew up with actually watching Troma.
Well, and it's like, there's something, I think about this every time that I see it. The Troma intro music does not fit the tone of what anything Troma is.
That's what's so good about it. That's what I love so much. It's like, it's so either tone deaf or it's intentionally messing with you. Because in the 80s, you know, people would be like, sure, little Timmy, you can watch The Toxic Avenger because there's the Toxic Crusaders cartoon. And they watch the first, 5 seconds and it's the Troma intro and they're like, this will be fine.
Well, and see, they ruin that in the future. Like, I know Brian's watched a few more Troma films than you have, but certainly not as many as I have.
So I don't even know if I have.
Okay, so I was going to say, for me, the big difference, and this happened around like the 2000s when like Citizen Toxie came out, or like basically around when they hit like their 25-year anniversary, they kept the same logo, but at the end of the song, it gets all like wow, and it's like a giant picture of like Toxie screaming over top of the little town in their logo.
No.
And I'm like, no.
You're ruining it.
Yeah, like, the charm is that it feels like it's a cultured logo before like complete trash. But
I agree
I agree with also Brian's assessment a couple weeks ago, where it's like you go through those phases where like if you know that you're watching a Troma film and that logo pops up, you're like, oh boy, here we go. But if you don't know, you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
Well, there are a couple quotes from this that kind of show what movie this is or what they were aiming for with the humor and things like that. And things like, if you don't clean your plate, no cucumber pudding. That's a really weird thing. I mean, that's the mom, this professor's mom, who's the teacher, who won't let him have any chocolate. I was kind of expecting the chocolate issue
to be a factor.
Yeah,
to mean anything in this movie.
Maybe that it was that they poisoned the monster with chocolate, or that it was scared of chocolate, like something, anything.
No, just exhaustion.
Yeah, but the monster actually breaks through that front door when the Barney Fife firing squad, which is copywriting that right now as my next punk band name. Actually, probably that'd be a folk band name. But anyway, the hometown cops that are just like shooting at, having a fucking, they're going through hundreds of rounds of bullets, or maybe they're just shotgun shells. Doesn't fucking matter. It comes through that front door like one of the monsters in TMNT 2. I can never remember if Toka is Toka the one that's the wolf pup.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that it comes through like that, with like its ridiculous claws. The police chief, I guess, is like, "All right, friend, you stop right there." Oh, this is the guy that spits his tobacco juice everywhere all the time, and they use the same spittoon sound about 50 times. But he goes, "All right, friend, you stop right there. Trick or treat's over. Take that costume off right now." And the monster's like, "Rah!" And I was thinking about the guy who got paid to make that sound effect.
He got a credit. My favorite thing is like, because I know how some of us are. The second that faded to black and the first credit showed up, I'm sure you guys were like, and done, and like turned it off, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the closing credits do that thing where it's just like a random scene of that character doing something, and then it freezes and it's like so-and-so as blank. They use the scene of the monster kicking open the door to give the actor who played the monster like his proper credits.
I wonder if he was the sound guy too that did that rah sound, because that would be even better.
I want to know who was the genius who wrote the ding 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 music.
The best part about that is that it's so obviously. Well, I mean, this movie is pretty much entirely 80-yard, like almost all Troma films of the era. Of all shitty films of the era that Troma then bought and distributed. But it's just so funny because Henry Wilson, doesn't even hit the notes at the right location or in time, and it's just bing, boom, 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 beep, 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 and whatever it is, and it gets more ridiculous. What the fuck did you think was going to happen? Did you think that it was going to be some sort of hug it out situation? No.
And you know what? It's like, it's funny because as I'm watching it, I'm like, I don't fully remember how this plays out. I'm like, I'm pretty sure he's going to kill that guy. But man, if they just hug, I think that would be fine too. I was prepared for that. I was prepared. I mean, I checked. I knew that there was 20 to 30 minutes still on the clock. But I was like, maybe he hugs it out and the rest of this movie is just them like it turns into like E.T. and he's a nice monster. I don't remember. Once he killed him, I was like, oh, that's right. There's a whole subplot where everyone has to destroy all of their closets so that the monster has no place to regenerate.
So that's the weirdest thing about this is like the radio or TV, but it's some sort of voiceover that's like talking about the end of civilization as we know it. And I'm like, from one monster? I mean,
from a singular monster. At least Horror at Party Beach gave us like 5 or 6 monsters that were going to be the end of the world.
I mean, I don't gravitate towards end of the world movies. I don't like them because it seems absolutely absurd that someone in rural China would be at risk of being murdered by like the monsters in Horror of Party Beach. Like there are a lot of people in the world. There are last time I checked, over 7 billion.
7.5 billion.
Yeah, I can't imagine this fucking monster killing every single person in the world. So we're completely ignoring ostensibly the main character, which is this bumfuck journalist, I guess. And you can tell he's a nerd because he wears glasses, right? And
God, and the overalls and that ponytail.
Oh no, not Janie Briggs.
I hate you.
Anyway, that character becomes the monster's mate, I guess. It wasn't gonna go kill him. It was just trying to find a nice place to have dinner.
So let me see if I can find this. I was trying to find that quote so I could read it at the start of the episode, and I found.
Oh, are you talking about it wasn't the closet? It was beauty that killed the beast. That?
No. I was trying to find that opening speech, and I saw a really weird article that like kind of was basically saying that Monster in the Closet should be a gay icon.
It kind of is like if you think about it in that way. I mean, I guess you can read it that way, but I wouldn't give it credit for that, you know?
No, exactly. That's kind of how I felt. I was like, look, there's definitely something to be said. Like there's some subtext there if you want to really dig into it, but I also don't think any of it was intentional subtext.
Yeah, I think that it was actually just making a joke for absurdity's sake, that instead of, you know, how King Kong grabbed the white woman and it's like a horrible racist trope that they were playing on, this is kind of like, oh, let's make a joke about monsters grabbing the woman and just have it grab a guy. Like, don't give Monster in the Closet too much credit. It's not.
I wonder if the only reason that people are saying that is because it features the words "in the closet" in its title. And they're
oh shit! I don't know. This isn't Freddy's Revenge.
No, this has nothing on Nightmare on Elm Street 2.
Yeah, like
the beautiful unicorn of
of gay horror.
Yeah.
No,
I mean, I was like, that is interesting. Now, what I would love, we're not the right podcast to discuss this, but the proper podcast to discuss this listens to our show. So Joey, Joshua, listen here, guys. I need you to watch Monster in the Closet and talk about this.
Don't do it, guys.
I'm just saying, if we can make the Babadook a gay icon, there's something to be said that maybe we could do it with Monster in the Closet as well.
But at what cost?
I don't know. They talk a lot of they talk about a lot of shitty stuff just like us. So I mean, what else they got to do right now?
Yeah,
that's true. They are on lockdown, so
yeah,
whatever. Watch it.
Do we have any other thoughts about this movie?
No.
Okay.
No.
So, double features. I'm going to go first. There's a lot of really good double features that totally would make sense with this movie. But at the 0 hour, I land it on Mars Attacks. There's just moments that kind of reminded me of Mars Attacks. Specifically, the scene that we're talking about with the professor, where it looked like there was going to be peace, and then it just led to more of a murderous rampage, which is essentially like the 30 to 40 minute mark in Mars Attacks. Also, guys, we should really do an episode on Mars Attacks sometime.
I've never actually seen the whole thing, so if you pick it, I will gladly watch it.
Brian, there you go. There's a freebie for you.
Oh, like he's going to listen to us.
All right, who wants to go next on their double feature?
I'm going to go. I'm going to double feature this with There's Nothing Out There, because there is a very conspicuous boom mic scene in both movies. Did you catch that in Monster in the Closet?
Out of the corner of my eye, I thought that I saw a boom mic at one point.
Yeah,
and I was like, I probably didn't.
Yep, there it is.
Whoop, there it is. All right, Brian, what's your double feature?
Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
That was the other one I was torn between. It definitely has Attack of the Killer Tomatoes vibe all over it.
Yeah. But Attack of the Killer Tomatoes is more enjoyable.
Yeah, I that's been like on and off my pick list for so long because I'm like, I really like this movie. It's not a good movie. There's definitely plenty of things we could talk about, but it is decisively a comedy, not a horror. Like, it is trying so hard to nail those jokes, but I think we would have fun with it. I'm going to pick. You know what? I'm picking it.
I haven't seen it since I was 13, so I don't know if I would still enjoy it.
Probably most of it you'd be like, ugh, but there are like a handful of jokes that hold up fantastically. All right, so things that we watched this week. There's actually a movie that popped up on Netflix a couple weeks to like maybe a month ago, And I haven't really heard that much buzz about it, but it was a rom-com, so I said, fuck it, I'll watch it. And it was a movie called Straight Up, and it was pretty good. It reminded me of if like someone had, they make a lot of Gilmore Girls references, and it definitely feels like it's written by someone who loves Gilmore Girls because it is very dialogue heavy. But it's a weird concept that he's gay, but he's also asexual, but he also has severe OCD where fluids freak him out. So he tries to like prove to himself that because he's asexual, he doesn't have to date men. So he starts dating this girl, and it's like a really cute romance story, except that they never have sex because of his OCD. And then it turns into like more of a story of like, you have to address who you actually are in life. Like you can't like it's kind of like it's definitely like a be true to yourself type movie. But I found it really enjoyable. And then I found out that the writer, director, and star of the movie went to high school with my friend Kate, who did a bunch of the podcast logos and would watch our live stream Yeah, so I was like, hey, how do you know this guy? And she's like, oh, we went to high school. He was very, very nice. I was like, he seems very, very nice. Thank you. But because of that, Scott's wife also recommended The Half of It, which I think is a better movie. Of the two, I would say watch The Half of It, which is basically just a 90s rom-com with the gender roles swapped slightly. And I really, really enjoyed it.
I don't have much. I rewatched A Futile and Stupid Gesture this week. And
it's still such a good movie.
Loved it the second time. So well done.
I want to talk about some stuff that I've watched.
Okay.
So first of all, I want to get the bad out of the way. Jonathan, the Podfather, sent us a screener copy, like as a Vimeo link or something, to Blade, the Iron Cross, which was the newest Puppet Master movie.
I forgot to watch that.
Do you know how many minutes I got into it before I pieced out?
10.
I'm going to say 7.
It was less than 10. Yeah, it was less than 10. It was so bad. It was so bad. And it was like also zombies. And it's like, why do you even make this shit?
And this is, so here's the thing. Because before we hit record, Scott and I were having this conversation, kind of trying to figure out like Full Moon versus Troma. And I think what it comes down to is like Troma has been more consistent throughout their career in the sense of like Lloyd knows that people are showing up because they want to see practical effects, like shockingly well done, low budget practical effects, absurd amounts of nudity, and lots of gore. So whether it's the Toxic Avenger or it's whatever the shit he's putting out in 2020, it's always going to have that in it. Full Moon at some point was just like, I know that people really like the fact that we put a lot of effort into this stop motion shit, but just not worth it. Let's just buy a doll and move it all, have someone off screen just moving it around for the rest of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, let's not take away from the fact that Lloyd is a talented filmmaker who chooses. I mean, if you look at everyone that has been famous, that has become super famous, or hasn't worked with Troma, but directly, like Sam Raimi, that like directly gives Troma credit for all of his inspiration. It's just like Lloyd wants to make bad films. And I think that Lloyd challenges the norm. And Full Moon, I don't really like Full Moon. I think they're just cash cows that aren't good at making cash. But I think that they capitalize.
And their social media presence is abhorrent. It is so bad.
Yeah. Well, and the flip side, because Brian's bringing this up, so I do want to ask. So you enjoyed reading the Lloyd Kaufman books about filmmaking?
I haven't finished yet.
Because
quickly.
He does a really, really good job in those books, of like coming off fairly humble, but then bringing in people who are way more famous than he is to like boost the ego of like, no, this guy's going to act like all he does is make shit movies, but for real, the dude is like one of the best human beings that you could ever know. Like,
yeah, dude, would you write a book and not do that? I mean, listen, what's the point of writing a book if you can't have people jerk you off over it?
That's what I mean. But it would also be like the chapters where Matt Kelly's writing about Matt Kelly would absolutely be like, yeah, no, I mean, I just do the podcasting for the love of podcasting. It's not for the accolades. And then I would like 100% get like someone who's much more famous than me to be like, Matt Kelly's what got me into podcasting.
Yeah. So, word to the listener who may be young and naive or just naive. We don't do it because, we're good people. We do it because we have an abyss of attention in our hearts and we need to have it filled. So thank you.
You think that I'm just going to make $120 a month? not putting my heart and soul into 7 podcast projects.
And that money, like, oh yeah, $120. I'm sure that it's actually $120 and not like you are basically putting $700 into the podcast in a month and being like, yeah, well, there's this money coming in from the Patreon.
Yeah, I'll be paying off some shirt purchases for a good year at least.
A year? Are you insane? Not in 2020, maybe in 2021.
Listen, let me be optimistic. We need optimism in 2020.
All right, so I got 2 more things I want to talk about.
All right.
Scare Package, which was it's like an anthology on Shudder, and it was the big thing that they were pimping. I guess that was in June. I can't quite remember, but it's not good. And it's got Joe Bob Briggs in it, and I didn't realize that going into it. Again, we're in lockdown. I mean, not lockdown, but we're still in a pandemic, and so I will watch basically anything that has some sorts of gore in it. And it just reminded me of how much I hate Joe Bob Briggs and how much I hate people that love Joe Bob Briggs because he's a fucking prick. I can't stand his cult. He's not even clever. He's just fucking annoying. So fuck Scare Package. It wasn't good, but it has very much a there's nothing out there vibe to it. But then I did really enjoy the Etheria Film Night Shorts 2020 anthology that Shudder has right now. It's I liked all but one of the shorts in it. And another one made me think and made me uncomfortable. And I do like the queer bent to that specific short, but I don't know if it's in good taste. Just kind of some of the things about it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And I don't know if that's me being overly sensitive because I want to be a better ally or if it's because it actually is inappropriate. So, but also it got me thinking a lot about like modern horror has gone back to being like super serious and dark. And I think that that's Hereditary's fault. So if you're going to watch the Etheria Film Night Shorts 2020, get ready for some dark shit.
Yeah, I definitely miss there being a nice blend of like, I mean, and we still get it, like we get like Midsummer and Ready or Not in the same year.
Yeah.
But like it's what the mainstream perspective tends to be. And the mainstream perspective is like, well, I was laughing during that, so clearly it sucked. And it's like, well, that's not every horror movie's designed to like literally make you sick to your stomach and uncomfortable. Like some are designed to make you laugh and be over the top, which like Ready or Not is very, very, very successful at.
Yeah, and fucking Mom and Dad and The Color Out of Space didn't make me laugh, but like it was really, I mean, it was very entertaining. I feel like there's a good medium, a good blend that you can have. You don't have to be fucking dour all the time.
Yeah, and like, at the time that we're recording this, it's finally been announced that Fantastic Fest isn't happening this year, which is fine. What I'm more excited about is that they were straight up like, we're not doing the virtual film festival. Like, the whole point of our festival is that it's limited to a certain amount of people so that you can network. So like putting it online is pointless. But what I loved about Fantastic Fest when I look at their lineup versus a lot of other film festival lineups is that they really do try to have this perfect like blend of everything horror wise. You've got like the wacky horror movie, you've got the super serious horror movie, you've got some foreign films, like you kind of cover that entire gamut. They do 2 or 3 really random like retro screenings. I think last year they did a midnight screening of Nightmare on Elm Street 2 Freddy's Revenge as the second feature after Scream Queen. So you'd watch Scream Queen and then do the Q&A with Mark Patton and then watch Nightmare on Elm Street 2, which was like a really cool package with a party hosted by Peaches Christ. Like an old drag show party before the premiere, which like that was all really, really cool. So like that's very, very cool. And I think that, some of the stuff, the virtual film festivals, when like the whole point is just showing up and seeing movies, like totally makes sense. But I agree with their decision. Like, if the point is not just seeing the movies, but allowing all of these filmmakers to actually network with people from studios and other creators and stuff like that, and you see the Fantastic Fest effect of like people who show up with a short that they have playing at Fantastic Fest, and then 3 years later they're there with a feature film, and then when you ask them about it, they're like, well, when the short premiered at Fantastic Fest, I met this director and he hooked me up with this producer, and then we start like, like it's like always the origin stories are we met each other at Fantastic Fest. So like, and I think a lot of horror movie night success stemmed from like me going out to that festival and shaking hands and meeting people, and there's a lot of factors. But what I'm saying is that there is a very wide kaleidoscope of types of movies being made every year. But when it comes to what the movie theaters feel like is worth putting in the theaters for people to pay money for, unfortunately, the shit that we love and just pumps through our veins tends to just get tossed onto Shudder or tossed onto Netflix with very little fanfare.
Yeah, which is fine for me because I don't want to go to the movie theater anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I will say, Scott, I don't want to talk about it very much, but you did suggest that we watch Warrior Nun, and
yeah, I got tired of it real fast. I didn't even finish the 5th episode.
I finished it, but it is Velocipaster the show. Like it's basically just in that same like, okay, we get the joke.
And also I was excited about it because I remember the comic book in the 90s. It's a lot of weird shit in my brain about that show now, and I actually took it off of my to talk about list because I was embarrassed, and I hope that you had forgotten.
Nope, I sat and watched all 10 episodes, so I was at least going to shame you a little bit for it.
Fuck.
That was Monster in the Closet from 1986, as picked by this guy here, this hunk of flesh here. Yeah, a monster would come out of a closet and kidnap me. That's right. So, starting next week, we will be doing Listener Submitted Month. So, things to know about Listener Submitted Month. One, you guys submitted these movies. We picked them. And from what I can tell from the ones that we picked, it is a wide spectrum of movies I love to movies I'm going to be very upset that we're watching. Two, we're going to bring back a bunch of guests, almost all of them return guests. I think there's one first-time guest on the show. They are definitely fan favorites among the listeners, but also fan favorites in our hearts. So I will tell you that next week we will be joined by Stephen Bay of Analog Jones. And I want this to be known. When you see the name of the movie that pops up on the feed, he was the one who chose to guest on this. I gave him an out, and he did not take it. So.
And he immediately messaged me and was like, hey, buddy, guess what I'm going to be on? And I'm like, oh, no. and I was like, oh, of course you picked that.
So, stay tuned. We will talk about a little film from 1995 that one of you had submitted to us. All right, bye.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network. You're listening to the Geekscape Network.